Well, good morning everybody, welcome back to another film. So today I'm in the heart of the Yorkshire Dales and we're actually away in the camper van for the weekend. But yesterday we were having a nice walk along a lovely river and found some nice areas of plants where I wanted to photograph. So I thought I'd come back this morning, have a couple of hours before we had to leave the campsite, and I just thought it was a good opportunity to bring you along with me. Can you hear that? Just flown across the other side of the river. That's the common sandpiper. Nests along the shaly banks of riversides, generally just tucked under the bankside. It's probably got youngsters now, that's probably why it's calling. So I just wanted to stop quickly just to show you the woodland that I'm in en route to where I'm going this morning. Really having a good call over there. Don't hear those every day. So yeah, the woodland that I've just walked through, which I'm almost certainly going to come back to at some point, is a triple SI woodland. It's a site of special scientific interest. Not sure what the designation is for. I'm pretty sure it's probably for the botanical life, the age of the woodland probably. Where I am just at the moment, it's not a good example of it, but there are places along our walk yesterday where the woodland was just filled with ramsons, wild garlic, absolutely carpets of it. It's all gone over at this time of year, but definitely one to come back to. There's areas of bluebell woodland in it as well. The only downside from a photographic point of view is access. Because of the triple SI designation, you've not got a huge amount of access to wander in and out the woodland, and it's in quite a steep valley, so to get off the path is not that easy. But some of the sections even from the path are really lovely, and there's a few sections of beech woodland in it as well, so potentially good for autumn time. The riverbank itself, the river itself, quite wide, probably about 10 metres wide, something like that, and fairly fast flowing in places. It's got some landscape photography value, and I was checking that out yesterday, but there's none really worthwhile on the section that I'm walking this morning. And the reason I'm doing what I'm doing this morning is because at the moment we've got some flat lights, which is not ideal for the bigger view. So I just thought I'd give you an idea of where I am, just to give it some context. But an absolutely beautiful part of the world, and just to put the cherry on the cake this morning was to be able to listen to the common sandpiper calling. So let's get cracking. So this is the area that I wanted to come and photograph this morning. It doesn't come without its hurdles. The fact that the plants are growing here in abundance as they are is because the grassland isn't managed at all. It's just left to its own devices, and that whilst that's great for the variety of plants that are along here, the other vegetation, the tall vegetation such as these false oak grasses, cocksfoot, all sorts of other things, knapweed, quite tall plants, all can cause distractions in the background of photographs. So it's not going to be easy this morning, and whilst it's not too bad at the moment, I've got quite a bit of wind. The light is good. Let's hope it stays like this and doesn't become too sunny, but it's a lovely stretch of riverside banking, and there's got to be something here, I feel. But plant variety wise, things that I don't normally see in my neck of the woods, we do get meadow cranesbill, but not very often. There's quite a lot of it along here, and one that I was really pleased to see, not the most photogenic plant in the world, this is great burnet, and when you start seeing that in places, you know you're onto some good stuff. So really lovely to see that. So I'll start to have a walk, and hopefully I can pick some nice clean specimens out and get some photographs. But yeah, this wind is causing me a little bit of concern, but we'll just see what we can do. So tripod into position, my first shot, and it is actually the meadow cranesbill. And as I was walking along, obviously the plant is very, very vibrant, really showy, catches your eye, you can't miss it really. One particular flowering head caught my eye, which was this one here. And the reason it caught my eye was because it was low, it was down in amongst the vegetation. If you watch the videos regularly, you'll know that shooting through vegetation often leads to a nice result. You get that lovely soft out of focus base and the flower just grows up through it. And it's got a lovely ethereal feel about it. It's lovely and gentle, and it really helps to set the flower off, and it separates it from everything in its surroundings. Now, the flower head itself, there's a lot of depth to it, certainly at this magnification that I'm at here. I'm only about 7 inches from the actual plant, from the flowering head. So depth of field is an issue. When I first decided to photograph it, I thought I'd just take a single shot because of the wind and just sort of focus on the stamens in the middle and just throw all the rest out of focus. Now I've got that. But then I thought, well, actually there's 1 or 2 little breaks in the wind and I will try and do a focus stack. Now I haven't got the time to spend a lot of time refocusing and setting the mirror lock up and the 2-second timer, which is what I'd normally do. So what I did on this case, I didn't use my LCD on the back of the viewfinder. This camera has got a pentaprism in it, so you actually can look through the mirror and straight through the lens, unlike a mirrorless camera where it's all digital. There's no pentaprism in it at all. So what I've done is I've looked through the back of the viewfinder and I've literally been focusing on the very first part of the flower and just quickly taking shots, refocusing and moving the focusing wheel until I've covered the entire flower. Now there is a little bit of movement during that sequence, which is unavoidable on a day like this. It's just not that still, but hopefully I've got a moment in time where the movement is so minimal that Photoshop will be able to stitch them together and align them all. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to show. It might just be a single shot with very much out of focus, just with the stamen points in sharp focus, or it could well be a nice stack of the entire flower, at least some of it. So I'll put that on now. So hopefully that came out all right and managed to get a nice stack. And I was thinking that probably many of you will by now on your new cameras will have the automatic focus stacking option built in. If any of you have tried that in sort of in the field in situations like this, do let me know in the comments below what you think of the results, because obviously at some point this which is now becoming quite old, this camera is going to need replacing at some point, and I know that, like I say, a lot of the newer cameras have now got that facility built in, so it'd be interesting to know just how you've got on with it. So like I say, let me know in the comments below. I've just spent ages trying to photograph these oxeye daisies. Really quite a showy flower, really beautiful, and when you get them en masse they're just stunning. And out of all the banking that I've walked across, this is the first patch that I've come to, and you've got to have a go at them, haven't you? And I initially started to look at them from above. I've never photographed them before, would you believe? What I'm finding is that the yellow and the white don't really go that well together. The yellow, when you get up close to it, can look a little bit muddy in appearance, and it doesn't contrast well with the white. So a tried and tested method that I've been using for a while now is to try and get underneath, and I thought, well, I wonder what they'll look like from down here, from an insect's eye view almost. And straight away I started to notice some nice shapes, and I started playing around, taking various images, and I haven't got my mind set on anything in particular, but what I did notice is that underneath the sepals, which are the bits that hold the petals in place, are really quite nice, and I tried to focus on those to get some sharp ones set in amongst some of the other flowering heads, and try to mix them up with the petals and all sorts of variations. And I'm really not sure which one I'm going to show at this point, and I'm really not 100% sure whether I've got one that's sharp enough in all the right places, but I'm going to stick my neck out and put one on in a second. But just so you know the settings, I've gone on aperture priority because the light is changing all the time, and as I move around, certain areas of the plant are darker than others, and I can't really get into a position where I can start adjusting the manual settings. So I'm on aperture priority, I'm on f4, and there's no mirror lock up on, there's no timer on or anything like that. But what I have done is I've overexposed, I've given it a +1 stop, because the white sky and the white petals causing the camera to underexpose, so a camera will always be set to meter for a mid-tone grey, and I don't want that grey appearance. I'm looking for more of a high key appearance, so I've overexposed the shot by a good 1 stop to bring everything back to a nice white, and so just playing around, manual focus of course, and just moving in and out. But I've been here so long, my back's killing me. I've got pins and needles in my toes, but hopefully I've got something that's worthwhile. But wherever I look, there's potentially a nice view, but it's just trying to get the right places into that sharp focus where they need to be. So I'll put the best one on now. Just grab another one. So I've just downed the camera bag whilst I had a little bit of a rummage, as we photographers do, along this rocky bank just behind me here, and I've seen a couple of things that I just wanted to share with you, that sort of stuff that catches my eye. The first one, definitely not going to photograph this. In fact, I'm not going to photograph any of the things I'm going to show you now, because I've already checked them out and they don't really work as well as I'd like them to. But this first one just here, you'll never believe that I haven't placed it, but I assure you I haven't. So just on here on this rock, an upturned willow leaf, that would make a really nice composition. You go in close and fill the frame. Look at that lovely sweep of the leaf, really lends itself to a nice clean composition. The things I'm not too keen on are these bits of moss here. They're a bit dead and a little bit unsightly. They don't add anything to the frame, but the leaf has got a really nice shape to it. So that was the first thing that caught my eye. Secondly, and I've seen a few of these this morning dotted about, I'll just show you the main group first. So as we look at the grassland, there's all sorts of things in it. You've got the hogweed there, there we go, that's the hogweed. You've got meadowsweet in the background. This is meadowsweet here, just here, look, that's meadowsweet. And this plant likes to be near water, often in water, and it's a good indicator of fen vegetation. And some in flower there, look, and it smells like, if you can remember in the old days, there was what we put on cuts called germaline. It smells of germaline, I always think. But Also dotted around just over there. There's another one just over there, look, and one closer here. Just going closer. That's the common spotted orchid. I've had the camera out on a few of those, but they just look quite ordinary. I can't seem to get good separation in the grass because they're quite big plants, and the grass is all distracting in the background, so I've not bothered with those. But what I did find really interesting, and I'm not a geologist, so you might be able to tell me if there's any of you out there that are. So like I say, I think this is probably sandstone, which I'm fairly confident about, but just down here, this white one I'm pretty sure is limestone. We're in Yorkshire Dales, so it's a good chance it is limestone. It's probably been brought down with the river at some point, or as part of the glaciation. But just down here, see that? There's fossils in the rock, and that's the only rock on here that I can find them in. I find that fascinating. As I say, I don't think it's quite there as a photograph, but what an interesting little bank, and get your bag off and have a nosy around and spend some time in one area. It's never disappointing on the variety of things you can find. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time here, and hopefully I can drop on something really quite nice. So continuing with the handheld theme this morning, I'm finding that it's just not practical to get into a lot of the places I want to get into, because I'm just at risk of ruining all the stuff that I'm walking on. There's lots of really delicate and I won't say rare, but certainly plants that I don't see too often, and I'm not that confident or comfortable, should I say, with just wading in there just to get a photograph. So this is one that I've mentioned a couple of times on videos, and you know me, I like grasses, very under photographed, and this is one called tufted hairgrass. Really quite a showy grass of all the grasses, and you can tell tufted hairgrass if you put your hands on the tops of the leaves. It's quite spiky, it's quite sharp, and that's where it gets its name. It forms these tufts, but it's also quite rigid when you feel the tops of the leaf blades under the palm of your hands. And like I say, carrying on with the handheld theme, what I've done with this in the past is I've gone in quite close with the macro lens, and I've photographed against sunlight and thrown the sunlight really out of focus, so it's just a bright orange ball, and then picked out parts of the spikelets to form a composition. Well, because of the oxeye daisies that I did a little while ago, I thought, I wonder what it'll look like doing the same thing from under here. So the technique is exactly the same as before. I'm just on f4. In terms of ISO, I'm on 400, and I'm getting really fast shutter speeds. That sandpiper's almost following me around this morning. I'm sure there's probably a few on this stretch of river, and just shooting up to the sky and looking for nice compositions where all the spikelets form a clean composition, one where everything seems to have a place, but at the same time being careful, trying not to get too much of the stalks in, because they can form really quite unsightly lines if you're not careful. So it's a case of focusing on the top parts of the grasses or the panicles and trying to exclude the straight lines. I mean, they're unavoidable to some extent, but you can place them within the frame, so they're quite pleasing. So like I say, it's a 100mm macro lens, and I'm not on 1:1. I'm probably about half of that, 2:1, and just firing away on aperture priority. Again, I've set the exposure to overexposed by a full stop, just because the sky above is really quite bright, and I don't want that to become too dark. And just as soon as you find something snap into a nice composition, just press the shutter button and away you go. So I will put the best one on now. Well, that's it from me for today, folks. Images to come at the end. If you've enjoyed the video and you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. Leave some comments below, let me know what you think of today's images, and if you have enjoyed the video, give it a nice big thumbs up. So until next time, thank you all for joining me this morning. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.